it's supposed to feel.
Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to, welcome to Starbucks. I'm your host, Anthony DiNardo. With me, we got Jim Rosati. How you doing this morning, Jim?
I'm doing all right. I don't know what's going on with our internet today. You're all blurry to me.
I was going to say, I have a feeling I'm having an issue right now.
Yeah, I think now it's
You
your
were
fault.
earlier.
Yeah.
I might have to leave again.
Yeah. If you leave, I can talk for a little bit and then you pop back in. Yeah. So, yeah. Good morning, everybody. Monday morning, Starbucks. Got a few things on the agenda. Pirates just lost their series over the weekend. So we're going to talk a little bit about a pretty hot topic, which is the bullpen pecking order. We saw Derek Shelton head to Robert Stevenson a couple times over the weekend. And there was some questioning of those moves kind of throughout Pirates Twitter and the fan base. So you have Robert Stevenson coming in, one-run games, both when they have a one-run lead. And you just took me off now. Now I'm back on. Now you're all choppy still, though.
Really?
Yeah. Well, now you might be back.
Okay.
All right.
I should be okay. I think I'm okay.
I think we're good now. I can at least see you, and you're not like super blurry. Yeah. But no, I was talking about our first topic on the agenda is going to be bullpen pecking order, just kind of how we feel about them in general. But I guess before we get to that, everything going good with you, DiNardo, this Monday morning, other than your internet, of course.
Now everything's okay.
All right. Yeah, I think we're good. I think we're good to go.
All right. Well, let's get into it. Let's get into our single shot. So much like my internet, we weren't quite sure how stable this bullpen was going to be this year.
What a segue.
Look at me. Anyways, though, for real, we knew David Bednar was going to be good, right? Other than that, who knew what this bullpen was going to be? But yeah, I figured like this is a good time. We discussed, let's talk about the bullpen. We're almost 2 months into the season here. I think we talked about the bullpen mostly earlier in the year, like all throughout April, and the fact that because the Pirates were winning, because the Stars were taking them so long, it was getting them to Holderman, to Bednar, and therefore making the bullpen look good because it wasn't being exposed. May did quite the opposite. We're seeing a lot of the rest of the bullpen being used now. So let's kind of talk. I mean, at this point in time, maybe discussing like who in this bullpen you think is actually maybe good, who's not, like you discussed, like the pecking order. So again, it's David Bednar. Once again, I apologize, David Bednar. You're so good. We're not going to talk about you too much. But after that, what does this bullpen really have, Jim?
I think you can pretty confidently say that Colin Holderman is your number 2 guy. Just based off of this stuff and based off of what we've seen from him, I don't think you can have faith in any other reliever more than Colin Holderman. If we're kind of moving Bednar off the table, because Bednar is really good, right? So Holderman for sure is like that number 2 bullpen option that's out there. But then once you kind of move past Holderman, then it gets kind of interesting. I think you've got a bunch of names where you're not really quite sure where guys line up. And I think you can throw 4 people into that mix, really. And correct me if I'm wrong if you want to add anybody else, but you're on Bednar, Holderman, and then really it's who's better between Robert Stevenson, Jose Hernandez, Dowry Moretta, and Johan Ramirez.
I think that's pretty much where you're at. It's not anyone else outside of those 4. But what I'll say is those 4 intrigue me. Coming into this season, Stevenson was a guy that, again, when they picked him up last year, who's a guy that intrigued me because that slider was like so good. But everything else is who knows, right? But he's also coming out of Colorado, and we know how things are very flat in Colorado. You have a really good slider. Being in Colorado kind of mitigates that from being really good. So it was like, okay, is this going to be something interesting or not? Then he gets injured, and who knows, right? So coming into the season, I was kind of intrigued on him. Now, Moretta, I really wasn't at all. Johan Ramirez, whatever. Jose Hernandez, that we'll see. Did something happen?
Yeah, your internet got all wonky again.
Am I okay now?
I think you're good now. You just had that robot voice for like 2 seconds.
Okay. But yeah, Jose Hernandez, maybe some intrigue. And honestly, at this point in time, I think like all 4 are certainly intriguing. But I say intriguing because I'm not confident in either of them. Like they all have their faults. It's not like I'm ready to dub anyone like, okay, you're the 7th inning guy.
Yeah.
But like they all have some they have some good pitches.
They do, and something I just kind of want to point out here when it comes to relievers, we're dealing with pretty small sample sizes right now. First off,
Yes,
yeah, no Pirates reliever has more than 21 1/3 innings pitched, and that's Dwayne Underwood Jr. So we're dealing with basically, if you're talking about a starting pitcher, we're talking about like 4 starts or less that we're judging these people off of. So kind of take that with a grain of salt. But I think one thing I want to talk about, and we saw Robert Stevenson kind of implode over the weekend, right? Just from a number standpoint, like the ERA, everything looked good stat wise, but there were obviously some underlying issues there, and he's kind of self-corrected himself from just one weekend. But what I want to talk about more than anything is left on base percentage. I feel like when it comes to bullpen arms and small sample sizes, that sometimes can be a factor when is somebody overachieving? Is somebody set to regress? Is somebody set to maybe be better than they really are? Because for the most part, left on base percentages don't really vary all that much across baseball. Like your left on base percentages when you're a pitcher, somewhere typically in the low 70%, right? That's just where you end up being, over the course of an entire season. And Stevenson, just letting everybody know, Stevenson going into the weekend, left on base percentage of 94.3%. Completely unsustainable number, and a number where as soon as you look at it, you're like, this guy's due for some runs to be scored on him because he's just been incredibly lucky so far. So Robert Stevenson, 94.3% left on base percentage for the weekend. That has since now corrected down to 78.9 just over the weekend.
right.
If you're looking at that number and saying, okay, who's next maybe to self-correct? Johan Ramirez currently is sitting at a 92.6% left on base percentage. So another guy where the stuff looks good, similar to Stevenson's, and the numbers look good, 1.69 ERA. But he's allowing too many base runners to have a 1.69 ERA. And eventually that's going to catch up to him. So that's kind of the guy who I feel like there's a lot of people who have some intrigue about Ramirez, and yeah, his numbers have given you reason to, but just keep an eye on him because that number looks kind of scary and means that he's kind of the next one to kind of blow up and give up some runs here. Not to say that you can't have a high left on base percentage, but that's typically reserved for really, really good pitchers.
Right.
And I don't think Johan Ramirez is in that category. But I just wanted to kind of point those numbers out. Stevenson was due for some regression. We saw it. And now it looks like Johan Ramirez is probably that next guy who's due for it.
Yeah. No, I mean, you make a very solid point there. It's like the guy that has the 400 beta, right? Probably going to see some regression. He's probably not going to bat 350 the rest of the year. So, what is his hitter? So, yeah, very, very similar in that sense. Johan Ramirez isn't a great pitcher. He's not going to get you out in that sense to have the high left on base. But again, like stuff that intrigues me, right? Like watching him pitch, he's got some good stuff. Like I was talking a lot this week about talent, right? And like when you look at Johan Ramirez, you see some talent there. Now, is he going to put it together and be a good reliever? That's a whole other story. But like at this point in time, especially like from last year, even I'm way more intrigued about Johan Ramirez than I was before. And like when you look at his stuff too, like looking at StatCast, whatever, he has like 2+ pitches. His slider and his sinker are both rated positively as far as runs value, -3 and -2. And like you're seeing it play. Like when you watch it, it's like, oh, that looks good. And as far as Johan Ramirez, like the walks are not exactly where you want to see. Like that is his problem too. Like control 3.94 per 9. But like it's doable. I mean, he does strike out guys. He walks a little bit. It's not really allowing home runs so far this year. Like I'm liking what I see, and that's why I as well as you are putting him like in that mix. But again, so we're talking about like, all 4 of these guys, they're intriguing, but we're not real confident really in either of them. I don't know, like, so we're talking about pecking order. I'm not going to put him over Holderman, I think, at this point in time. I mean, honestly, my personally, who I'm going with right now is Jose Hernandez. Like, that's the one I think I feel the most comfortable out of those 4 with.
Yeah, and that's what's kind of interesting is we just named 4 relievers, and the guy you're most comfortable with is the Rule 5 pick who's never played in the major leagues. It's hard to argue with it. I mean, you look at Hernandez's numbers, he's striking out 27.8% of hitters. He's only walking 4.2% of hitters. He actually, from a walk rate, second best walk rate on the entire team behind David Bednar, which is just absolutely impressive for a Rule 5 pick coming straight out of Double-A.
Right.
That's not something that you would have expected him to do. So, yeah, Jose Hernandez. If you want to say that Jose Hernandez is like your number 3 guy out of the bullpen, I'm not gonna argue that too much. I think I'm still to the point where I don't know if I can pick a guy.
Well, see, now,
I mean, I guess
hold up. You have to pick a guy.
I guess we have to pick somebody. So I'll pick Moreta. I think Moreta has shown over the course of the year just more consistency than anyone else, especially lately. Like the past 4 weeks or so, Dauri Moreta has been absolutely, borderline unhittable. He gave up his first hit of May yesterday. And I mean, that was May 22nd. He had pitched, almost 9 innings prior to that. So yeah, I guess right now, if like you put a gun to my head and say you got to put one of these guys in to protect a 1-run lead, I'm probably going Moreta right now.
That's fair.
Which doesn't make me feel good. It doesn't make me feel great about my life, but but that's who I'm going with.
Sorry, Jim. Bye-bye. Yeah, I mean, again, like I can't truly argue that, like how you're saying about Jose Hernandez. I guess where I'm at is I've seen Jose Hernandez be more consistent in my mind throughout the whole year, where Moreta, pretty much in April, I'm like, I'm waiting and ready for him to fall off a cliff. And then May came, and it's like, holy hell, he's been unhittable, like you said. So like he's right now like on fire, like you're talking about hot hand, like I'm putting him in right now. But to me, I feel like April is going to come creeping back here any minute. That's what I'm worried about. Like when's this going to end? when's the real Moretta coming back, right?
Yeah.
So, but like he hasn't shown that, and I guess again, like that's where we're at. That's why he's intriguing. That's why you see the talent. His slider's so good. By the way, we're going about run value, -6 run value. It's like the 40-something best pitch in baseball right now. His slider's sick.
And same thing you talk about, Ramirez and his 2+ pitches. Moretta's got 3. Dauri Moretta has negative run value on his slider, his changeup, and his 4-seam fastball. So, yeah, I mean the pitches look good. The underlying things look good. Like he's not walking a ton of people. He's walking a decent amount, but he's striking out a lot of people, and he's not giving up hard contact. So,
what's he doing lately as far as walks?
Not walking anybody. He hasn't walked anyone since May 2nd.
That's why I asked, because again, you say walking a lot. He was. That's why in April you're ready for him to fall off, but like in this streak, I don't feel like he has. So right, Moretta has been amazing.
Yeah, he really has been. I mean, in the month of May, 0.00 ERA and over 9 1/3 innings, 1 hit, 2 walks, 15 strikeouts. So
that's dominance.
Really, really good May for Dauri Moretta.
Can't argue that.
Yeah. And you know what? The swag. Give me Moretta. He's got more confidence than anybody else.
I'll give you that. He's my setup man in that regards, because I'm still going Bednar number 1 there, because Bednar's got the swag. He might not be as showboaty, which I love.
Bednar knows he's better than you, and Moretta thinks he's better than you. So hey, thinking is half the battle.
Right. Like Bednar wants to murder you, and that's the difference. And that's what I like. But again, like all these guys that we're talking, like the pitches are there. There's certainly a lot of intrigue. I want to see more, and I'm leaning towards, like, this Pirates bullpen is leaning towards, like, it could be good. There's parts there, a lot more than we thought at the beginning of the year.
There are guys with stuff, and that's what you want to see out of a bullpen. That's what makes bullpen arms good. One guy who I don't want to see anymore, Dwayne Underwood Jr. Don't want to see him anymore. Stuff's not great. Dwayne Underwood Jr. is a pitcher that bad teams employ to just eat up innings and lose baseball games. That's pretty much what he's been doing all year. And I think whenever it comes to, like, if we're talking about next guy to go out of this bullpen and try someone else, I feel like Underwood's got to be there. And I know the team must like him a lot. I don't know why, because maybe it is just the value he gives you from all the innings. But what's the point of giving you a bunch of innings if they're not good innings?
No, you make a good case. And I've definitely been like a Underwood supporter these past few years, like, because he's gotten a lot of hate. And I guess as far as a supporter comes, it's been he's not this bad, guys. Not to put him in the category of him being a good reliever, but he's been in awful situations, like not utilized real well. But I'm with you, and I think that speaks more to the bullpen than it does him. He's having a bad season, right? But it's not like it's a complete drop off from before. It's just like there's parts that are ascending in this bullpen right now. And I'm with you. Like, what's next in this bullpen to go? It's got to be Underwood. It's not the guys that we just mentioned. Zastryzny is still a lefty. I'm going to give him some opportunities here. Not that I'm like intrigued by him at all.
Zastryzny sucks. Like, he's terrible. I mean, he's on the team because he can throw with his left arm. That's the sole reason.
Sure. Right. Yeah. But like Underwood, to me, I'm ready to move on from him. He's got to be next in my mind.
Yeah, I'm ready to move on. Give me there are a lot of, and this is your word, so intriguing arms in the minors. Colin Selby had been looking pretty good before getting on the IL. He's a guy I'd rather see right now than Dwayne Underwood Jr. Carmen Mlodzinski after getting, some innings under his belt in AAA, is probably a guy I'd rather see more than Dwayne Underwood Jr. Yuri De Los Santos also, struggling a little bit, but a guy that I'd rather see than Dwayne Underwood Jr. Now, like I said, Yuri De Los Santos, not deserving of promotion right now. He needs to get his stuff together in AAA before you call him back up. But we did see, just glimpses of kind of what he could do last year before his injury. But there's arms down there in the minors who I feel like can make bullpen arms. There's even some starters in the minors that I'd like to see the Pirates use as relievers, mainly in Altoona. Altoona, I think, has a lot of could be relievers in their starting rotation right now. Could be, I think, effective, back end relievers in that bullpen, in that rotation. Yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm at. Underwood Jr. just done. I have no interest seeing Dwayne Underwood Jr. take another walk from the bullpen to the mound. No more. Like, give me somebody else. Anybody else.
Right. Yep, I'm with you. Not to go too much longer with this. We thought we were never going to see him take the mound a couple of days ago with that injury, and it seems like he's fine now. It went from holy hell, he's just getting Tommy John to no, I'm good. Put me in, coach.
Yeah.
So we might see him still, but at least good for him though. Also, he's okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, some bullpen talk. Pirates potentially having a better bullpen. Certainly have some talent in there, but more to see. Should we get into our second shot?
Let's do it.
Talking some prospects.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to keep this a little more shorter and sweeter because I think last week we went off about 30 minutes on prospect talk.
Yeah, that was a little bit too much. This is supposed to be a short show. So
yeah, we've already kind of gone off on the bullpen. So so let's go ahead and talk a little bit about prospects. So this past week, let's maybe just go from single A to low A to triple A. How about that?
That works. That works for me.
All right.
Let's kind of just each bring one person to the table to talk about. Greensboro, you go first.
I want to talk about Tamar Johnson. We've talked about him so far this year, a little bit lately because he came back.
Sorry, Bradenton.
Oh.
Tamar's good. Yeah, Tamar's your guy.
He struggled a lot. He was striking out at 47%, was it, at the point of time? Like we talked about like a few weeks ago, and we said, hey guys, like chill. You're just coming back from injury. Like this is not what you want to see, obviously. But relax a little bit, pump the brakes, let this kid ease into things. And he's starting to ease into things, Jim. So over this past week, he's batting .385 in 20 plate appearances, just 4 strikeouts, 5 hits, a double, a home run, one that went over the fence, by the way. Tamar Johnson's kind of coming back. So again, it's just a week. I'm not here to say, okay, he's the top prospect in baseball and here's whatever, but you're now starting to see that shift, right? Okay, the rust maybe is out from under him. He's now putting up a pretty solid season. We look at the numbers holistically. He's batting .267. So again, the strikeout rate's coming down now. Tamar Johnson's starting to kick up and show you why he was claimed by many being the number 1 prospect in the Pirate system. So big week for Tamar Johnson. Still continue to watch him, keep your eyes on him, but certainly an intriguing prospect. Yeah,
and I want to add with Tamar Johnson, there was some talk about him last week. Fangraphs did a little tweak to their rankings and really dropped him quite a bit. I think he was like 20. He was right in like the 20th, 21st, 22nd range, somewhere in that area. Dropped to now like the 40th range. So, and friend of the show, Eric Longenhagen, wrote an article and kind of explained why. And it was just, I can't have a guy in the top 20 who's striking out 40% of the time in low A. That's essentially what he said. And I get that point. I also struggle to think that you should make any sort of conclusions after like 50 plate appearances, which is what he was doing. So we're fans of Eric on the show, but I disagree with him. Like, I don't think you can necessarily make that move in your rankings like this quickly. Tamar Johnson didn't have a spring training, and so his first few weeks of the season essentially was his spring training. And you're now seeing the strikeout rates going down, as you mentioned. He's turning it around. He's hitting the ball hard. Everything that we've been seeing Tamar Johnson really since May 9th is kind of when he started really turning it on. Right. He's been good. So it took him 2-3 weeks to kind of figure things out a little bit and get into the groove. But these last 2 weeks for Tamar Johnson have been great. Strikeout rate is down. For the season, it's still high. It's right 35% or so. Sure. But over that period of time, the strikeout rate has gone down. You shouldn't be concerned about Tamar Johnson, in my opinion. Like, you see that and you're like, oh crap, why is he dropping 20 spots in his first full season? I wouldn't be too concerned about it, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I can understand like Eric's point. I mean, he dropped to 40th. It's not as if it was like the Henry Davis fall of grace.
Mm-hmm.
But to understand why too, like, to add context to it, like, he was injured. So I understand, like, I can't have a guy at number 20 who's striking out this hard. But like, also, I'll not, like, I understand a little bit that the reason why, and I'm not going to just make him fall off a cliff. Yeah. So maybe I can understand that. But again, like, here's why we're discussing it, right? Like, yeah, I can understand the drop. He has dropped, but I can see him rise right back up if he continues doing what he was doing he didn't really do it before. If he can do what he was supposed to do and projected to do the rest of the way, I'm sure we're back in the 20s in no time.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I want to talk about Thomas Harrington as the guy I'm bringing to the table. This is the first that we're seeing of Thomas Harrington. He didn't pitch last year at all. I don't believe. No. So Thomas Harrington, he was the supplemental pick in the draft out of Campbell University. So I guess they just thought he threw 92 innings last year, and they're like, you're good. I think he had I don't know if he had some sort of injury or what. I'll have to kind of go further into that. But first season of pro ball for Thomas Harrington. He was essentially a first round pick, like a 36th overall pick in the draft. He has put up some pretty solid starts for the Marauders. This past week, struck out 9 in 5 1/3 innings. He has 7 starts on the year, 4 of which he is not allowed to run. So 4 scoreless starts so far for Thomas Harrington. The strikeout numbers are there. The walk numbers are fine. He's probably someone who, coming out of college, advanced for low A. Like, he probably should be in Greensboro. So I don't know quite how long he'll be in Bradenton, but so far he's doing everything that you want to see out of him.
Yep. Cool. So let's move up. Let's go to Greensboro. I'm going to go and select Anthony Solomito. Big start this week. He's won. So, friend of the show, Eric Longenhagen, not too friendly with Anthony Solomito. Doesn't think he's going to do too well with that fastball and such. So, I mean, something to keep an eye on. Like, I've liked him as a prospect. I've liked him so far as a professional. This season I think has been kind of mixed a little bit, but it's been trending in the better direction. As of right now, he's got a 3.68 ERA, but it's a big start this week. So he went 7 innings, which was the most he's went all year. First time he went over 5 innings. So a big jump in that sense. 2 earned run, but just 3 hits, no walks, 8 strikeouts. So he had a really, really good start this week, which again has been like, you're seeing his ascension a little bit. Like, every start seems to get a little bit better. So a good big week for Anthony Solomito. I don't know. Eric doesn't like him. I get it, I guess, but he has added velocity on the fastball. He's still young. Like, I'm intrigued with him.
He's looked pretty good. If you look at him just over the course of the season, he's been pretty consistent. He's at least put up good numbers throughout the year. He had one kind of blow up outing, but other than that, he's been fine. The issue that's kind of concerned me about Solomito is the walks. The walks are way up from where they were last year. Now his strikeouts are as well, but yeah, the walks are way up. So you want to see him kind of have a little bit more command. But you mentioned that start last week, 7 innings, 6 strikeouts, no walks. It was his first outing of the year where he did not walk a batter. So hopefully he can string a few of those together, because I think that's last year, just his overall command and kind of dominance of the Florida State League was pretty impressive at age 19. So he's only 20 years old. So from an age standpoint and where he's at, plenty to be intrigued about with Anthony Solometo.
Right.
But you do want to see the walks get a little bit more under control. So hopefully we can see another outing similar to what he had this week.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely want to see him build upon this. And I feel like too, like the walks have been a little bit up there too, but a lot of it's skewed by like his 2 worst starts, and 2 worst starts was because of the command. I mean, the one he walked 4, gave up 4 earned runs, and then not this last start, but the start before, he gave up 6.
Yeah,
6 walks in 4.2 and gave up 3 2 earned. So yeah, I mean, outside of that, like the rest are kind of okay where he's at, and of course this one was really good in that sense. But yeah, again, certainly still intrigued by Anthony.
Yeah, so Greensboro is sort of a level here where it's kind of tough to pick out somebody else because we can only say so much about Sung-Ji Chang. I think he's really the only interesting guy on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
But we'll go someone different this week, just for the sake of being different. And I'm going to talk about him not in a way that like you guys should be expecting big things from this guy, but Jackson Glenn was a 5th round pick in 2021. He's on the older side for the level. He's 25 years old. He's repeating the level, but he is crushing the ball. Like he's hitting 337, 417, 567. He's got a 161 weighted runs created plus. He's got 6 homers in 28 games. He's doing everything that you would want like a 25-year-old college hitter in his second season repeating the league to be doing, right?
Right.
Now, I like in no way am I saying Jackson Glenn, put him on your radar. He's going to be the next Pirates second baseman or something, right? But there's nothing that can stop Jack. There's nothing that stopping Jackson Glenn from developing one day into a utility infielder or something like that, right? Like he's certainly capable of being that. So not someone to get excited about, but like, hey, if he can hit his way through the minors, yeah, he's going to make his debut at like age 27, but maybe potentially give you 2 to 3 seasons of solid utility infield play. Like that's kind of his ceiling. But
Right.
he is crushing the ball at high A right now. Obviously, he's going to have to do the same in the upper levels if he wants to be able to do anything really. But I just didn't want to talk about Sung-Chi Chang for like the 6th straight week.
Yeah. But again, I think a lot of this just speaks to that team. Like I understand like there's performance that's happening, but I don't think a lot, and you the same way, like I don't think a lot of it translates to actual majors and that there's actual intrigue with them. So like I'm not going to talk about Hudson Head like you're not. Just because
and we actually talked about Hudson Head and Sammy Siani last week
Yeah.
a little bit, but again, just 2 guys where are they more interesting than Jackson Glenn? Yes, but not by a whole lot.
No. So anyways, I guess let's move forward. Let's go to AA. This is a guy I certainly want to talk about. Now, I brought him up, I think, like 3 weeks ago, like right in the beginning of May, just saying like, he's been really, really bad, but he had a solid actual like week and a half right now. Maybe things are coming together. I don't know. We talked about him last week and then this week for sure. Peguero's, I mean, just absolutely on fire, Jim. Like just purely on fire. In the past 117 plate appearances, he's batting 304. He's got a 150 weighted runs created plus. So like the strikeouts, that's one thing too. We're talking about like in May, even though he's bad, like the strikeout rate, the K rate was still like in line. He's still walking, just not really hitting too much touch. 304 on base, 394, slugging 520, walking 12.8% of the time, striking out 17.1. I mean, he's on a whole nother level right now. Now, mind you, about the actual level of AA, he is repeating, but also, mind you, he's still relatively young for that level. We've also seen this before. Like this is kind of like mirroring like the Nick Gonzalez stuff. We like every year without Nick Gonzalez. So it's like, well, he struggled, but if you look at this sample, he was really good. And maybe if this is the sample that's really him, there's something there. And then he moves on to another level, and you're like, I don't know about Nick Gonzalez anymore. So like this isn't me telling you, hey, Peguero's arrived. He is him. He is a good prospect. He's really hot. Again, still keep your eye out on him. This is why you have the intrigue with him, right? This is why you don't look at just the first 3 weeks and say he's not a prospect, but those 3 weeks are still there, right? And this is why you're kind of worried. Now, mind you, even if he does hit, he can't field, Jim. Now, I'm not saying he can't ever field him. Maybe there will be a day that he can, but that is still a real struggle. So I don't know where his fit is. I mean, we're seeing the major league product right now with a lot of guys who can't field, and Peguero's right there with them. So if his day comes to be a major leaguer, I'm not sure where it's going to be into the field, and he doesn't hit well enough to be a DH. So again, a la most of the Pirates prospects, the bat's coming alive though. So still, like, keep an eye on him. This is why he's going to be on a prospect list. It's why he does have intrigue. But he certainly comes with his issues.
All excellent points that you made there. He's certainly somebody that you shouldn't have written Peguero off after last year. He's still just 22. He's got all the tools that you want to see in a shortstop prospect on the offensive side of the ball. He's kind of growing into his body more and more. But like you said, he's hitting the ball really well right now. He looks good at the plate, but we've seen this before, right? Like last year, I just pulled up April and May last year, Peguero hit 312, 341 OBP, 512 slugging percentage. He had a 129 weighted runs created plus. From June 1st on, those numbers changed to 230, 286, 319, 67 weighted runs created plus. So he was a completely different ball player from June on than what he was in April and May last year. So that's kind of the thing you got to look at now is, okay, he's putting together the April and May that he put together last year. Very, very similar. Right. He's actually, getting on base at a much higher clip now than he did last year. So the walk rate is way higher, which is good to see. But for the most part, he's following this path of what he was doing last year. And so now it's just, can you keep it up? Because last year he couldn't keep it up. So Peguero, can you keep it up over a full season? Last year, he also, it was his first really full season of ball. 2021, he played 90 games. 2022, he played 121 games. So he's just to the point where he's playing more baseball than he has before. So can he just do it over a grueling 140-ish game minor league season? Because last year he showed he couldn't. Like, he couldn't keep it up over the entire year. So can he do that this year? I think he's a guy that you probably keep him in AA for a while. Like, even though he's repeating the level, like, you want him to show that he can consistently perform at that level before moving him to the next step. The other issue is the Pirates, in the short term could really use a shortstop in the major leagues, but do you thrust Peguero into that role? Like, if he's able to continue this more? So there's some intrigue here because Peguero's on the 40 man, and the Pirates need a shortstop. Marcano's holding down the fort just fine right now, but is that going to continue? I don't know. If the Pirates need another shortstop, is Peguero a guy that you can count on? And right now, I don't think you can say that, but if he can consistently do this, then then we're cooking with peanut oil, as they say.
Sure.
For Altoona, I'm gonna talk about Jared Jones. One of the guys who I kind of mentioned earlier in the broadcast. I think there are quite a few arms in Altoona that could eventually become bullpen arms. And you can throw him in the mix. You can throw Kyle Nicholas in that mix. You can throw Aaron Shortridge in that mix too. Someday. He's a little older. He's had some arm issues. Even Sean Sullivan, another guy. There are some arms in that Altoona bullpen where I'm not quite sure how they're going to develop as starting pitchers, but there are some guys to be interested in. Jared Jones, I think he has the most upside out of anybody in that rotation. And he's we saw him put up like Mickey Mouse type strikeout numbers his first year in Bradenton. They took a little step back in Greensboro, but still very impressive. The strikeouts are still there. Again, not as much as it's been in his past, but strikeouts are still there. 26.8% strikeout rate, pretty much right where he was last year. But this past week, he had 2 starts. Started on Monday and Sunday. First start, 4 innings, 1 run, 7 strikeouts, 1 walk. Second start, 4 innings, 2 runs, 6 strikeouts, no walk. So for the week, 8 innings, 13 strikeouts, 1 walk. That's kind of where I've been most impressed with Jones, is how he's done this each year. He's gotten better and better with his command and his walk rate. It's gone in his 3 seasons, 11.3% walk rate to a 9.6% walk rate to an 8.5% walk rate this year. So as he's moving up in the levels, he's throwing more strikes, which is good to see. And the results aren't changing. He's actually from a results standpoint, he's having his best year of his minor league career. He was drafted as a very intriguing arm, power right-handed arm out of high school. So he's only 21 years old doing this at AA. Jared Jones is probably a guy where you could pluck him, and I'm like, he's a guy you could pluck from Altoona right now and put him in the bullpen. I think
we're talking about him in our first segment.
Yeah, and I think he could hold his own right now. Now, if you think he's going to develop into a starting pitcher, then you want him to develop into a starting pitcher. The one caveat here with Jared Jones is they are being very careful with him. His 2 starts this past week, 4 innings apiece. He did not throw over 60 pitches in either of those 2 starts. So I'm sure that's by design somehow. I don't know if they're going to just kind of gradually ease him into the season and just go a little bit more at a time. But he's only gone 5 innings once this year in his 6 starts. So again, is he a guy who you're just putting him out there for 4 innings at a time right now, just so he can get a bunch of experience? And then the plan is ultimately to move him to the bullpen. I think there's still too much upside to give up on him as a starter, but the stuff is really good. And he would make for an interesting back end bullpen piece, and he could probably do it right now.
For sure. Yeah. The walks is something that's really standing out in my eye. And again, with the Peguero talk, 21 turns 22 in August in AA. So he's got the youth on his side too. So he's developing nicely, as we'll say right now.
Yes.
Let's move on to Indy. And in Indy, I want to bring up Endy. And because I think there's something not to debate, but he is the top prospect in many people's eyes, if it's not Tamar Johnson. And right now, if it's not Henry Davis in your eyes. But he is in AAA. He's the catcher. You would want to have seen him producing, and he's the guy coming up here that you're arguing about, not so much Henry Davis. And he hasn't really been that guy. That's why I want to kind of talk about him, because I'm not here to tell you I'm worried about Endy Rodriguez, but he's not really producing the way you would want to see him. Now, granted, I know he was injured for a bit of time. Was deemed he's fine. doesn't seem to be too fine. He was out for a little bit of time, came back, but like he's not really producing well, you know. And what I want to say is like since the injury coming back, he's only batting 212. He's got an 87 weighted runs created plus, but that's really fueled a lot by the walk rate. Now, the one thing we talked about all year long, and even now, like coming back from, you know, being injured and such and get back to the lineup, is like the strikeout rate and the K rate is excellent. The guy is not striking out at all. I mean, he's making contact with the baseball. The guy has a great eye. He's walking, and he's walking even more. So like before the injury is like a 9% walk rate, which again, good. But like at this point, like the thing is like all the underlying stuff is still there. He's getting BABIP'd pretty roughly. You know, like the batting average is low, but it really shouldn't be this low, you would imagine. Because again, with the contact skills is certainly still there. But again, like I'm not saying I'm worried, but this isn't the Endy that you've seen so far. This certainly isn't the Endy that you wanted to see. And on the season, again, like he's got a 91 weighted runs created plus at this point in time. You know, for the season, 239, 341, 12.4% walk rate, 12.4% K rate. Like he's walking as much as he's striking out. That's elite stuff. Like that's what you want to see right now. But the hits aren't really falling.
Yeah. And I mean, you can be concerned with his exit velocity numbers if you want to kind of dig pretty deep in there. Here's the thing though, like with Endy and I'm going to kind of go in defense of him here. Yeah. Like the results need to get better. Absolutely. The BABIP is low. You would expect that to go up and kind of level things out a little bit. But he does need to he needs to drive the ball more. The exit velocities have really never been like off the charts impressive or anything throughout his minor league career, but he's just always been a guy who, again, he makes contact so often and he still has really good hitting skills. He just doesn't hit the ball super hard. Like
right.
Like if we're talking, like if you look at someone like O'Neal Cruz, who just blisters the baseball every time the bat connects, like that's not who Endy is. Endy's more of a guy who can hit from both sides, put the ball in play, and just like kind of one of those like professional hitter type guys, right? So far, it's just kind of taking a while to get to that point in AAA. You've got to love the approach. The approach has been great. I said 12.4% walk rate, 12.4% K rate. Like that's pretty impressive for a 23-year-old in AAA. But yeah, you've got to come up with a way to get some power, whether that's hitting the ball over the fence or hitting the ball over people's heads. He you definitely want to see more of that for sure.
Yep.
To cap things off, AAA. I'm gonna talk about Quinn Priester. A really solid week from him last week. 2 starts. He went 7 innings on Monday. Gave up 1 run, struck out 9, walked just 1. Probably his best start. Actually, that's his best start of AAA. 7 innings, 1 run. And then he caps the week off yesterday with 5 scoreless innings as well. So 12 innings this past week, 1 run, 11 strikeouts, 3 walks. He seems to finally be getting things under control. A little bit of a rough start to his season in AAA. But if we look at his last 4 starts, so pretty much just the month of May, 4 starts, he's 4-0 with a 1.13 ERA, 19 strikeouts, 5 walks in 24 innings. So he seems to be putting together a really solid string of starts. Looks like Toledo, played St. Paul, played Iowa. So, impressive starts, 6 innings, 7 innings, 5 innings. He's looking more and more like a guy who's going to be a major league starter. He's kind of always seemed that way. He's someone with a pretty high floor. I don't see this guy not at least turning into at least a back end rotation arm, and you hope that he can be more of like a number 3 type of guy. But yeah, so far he seems to be adjusting to AAA. Obviously, you're gonna give him some time there. He's still just 22, but yeah, Quinn Priester doing the things you want to see Quinn Priester do.
Yes,
and he's just one level away now from reaching the majors.
Yep, things you love to see. That's exactly what Quinn Priester is doing right now. Luis Ortiz, I felt like overtook him in the sense of like who's closest and maybe the most intrigued. Luis Ortiz, of course, is in the majors in the second go right now. But Quinn Priester has now turned it on. I think he's getting back on that watch now of like, listen, this is why he's a legit prospect, and keep your eyes on him because like last year was kind of mixed, right? I think there was a lot of excuses of the performance wasn't truly there, but here's why you kind of like him, and like coming into AAA that still kind of remained, and these past 4 starts have been like, oh yeah, remember we said this is why. So I love to see it. Keep building upon it. See where this goes. I think this pretty much sums up our prospect talk. So let's get into this upcoming series versus the Rangers. This is a tough one coming up, Jim. This isn't Detroit. This isn't even the Diamondbacks. This is the Rangers, who I want to say are looking really, really good right now. They got Corey Seager back, who had a big game yesterday. Also, the pitching has been, as far as the starters, really, really good. And the matchups right now for these next 3 games are pretty tough for the Pirates. So Dunning, they have. Then you have Eovaldi. Then you have Perez. My eyes, this is a very tough test, especially for a struggling Pirates. So let's talk about the Rangers a little bit here.
Yeah, this is gonna be a tough one. Like you said, the starting pitching matchups, they're going up against. You could argue probably their 3 best starters. Nathan Eovaldi having an outstanding season, striking out a bunch of batters, not walking anybody. He's got a 2.83 ERA in 9 starts. Talk about Dane Dunning, 1.69 ERA in 11 games, 3 starts. So he did have some bullpen time there. And then Martin Perez, coming off some pretty good years, and he's still pitching well, 4.01 ERA and 9 starts for Martin Perez. So yeah, a tough test for the Pirates bats coming up, but I think more than anything, tough test for the Pirates pitching coming up. Like this team
second best offense in baseball.
This team can rake. Yeah, second best offense behind the Rays. And you just go
Corey Seager
up and down the lineup. Marcus Semien is having like an MVP caliber type season. Jonah Heim behind the plate has really developed into one of the best catchers in baseball. Adolis Garcia, late arrival to the scene, but just he's hit ever since he's kind of arrived. Like this up and down the lineup, these guys are scary. They're scary. There aren't too many people on this team who get regular at bats who aren't good. Like you could probably say Robbie Grossman is the one guy who you're not like scared of in this lineup, but up and down, everyone else, good hitters. Corey Seager's back from an injury, and Corey Seager is playing better than Corey Seager's ever played in his career. So, yeah, this is going to be a tough one. The Pirates starters, you've got Rich Hill starting on the mound. So maybe it's kind of nice to have, Luis Ortiz tonight. Sorry. Luis Ortiz tonight against a really, really tough lineup. And this is, Cherington hasn't said whether or not Velasquez is going to get one more shot at a rehab start, but Velasquez looked really good in his one rehab start. If I'm the Pirates, I'm probably not giving him another rehab start. I'm probably letting him rejoin this rotation once he's ready. So this is probably Luis Ortiz's last start, in this short stint he's had while Velasquez is on the IL. So we'll see how he does. It's going to be his biggest test, though, because, again, this lineup, I know that Tampa Bay Rays lineup was good, but I think with Seager now back, like this lineup top to bottom, so many guys who can do damage.
Yeah, I'll say that. I mean, it's arguable who's the better lineup. I mean, by numbers right now, Tampa Bay is still clearly better. But again, like we talked about, the second best offense in baseball, and it's been much without Corey Seager at all year. It's $300 million man.
Yeah.
There's a reason that you pay him that much money, right? It
Yep.
ain't because it's his defense. So, yeah, Corey Seager's back now. This lineup is very, very deep, very, very good. This is a very tough test for Luis Ortiz, who's struggled the past 2 times mightily. You know, I mean, much more last time than the first time also. So probably going to be his last start. I hope he doesn't make it his last start because he just looks awful. But this is a big test for him, a huge test. I mean, he has to be sharp. He can't be coming in here thrown all over the place because now this team crushes. This is the best, I think, the best batting average. It's not the second best batting average in baseball too. They connect, but like they don't strike out a ton. They don't walk a whole ton. They have power. They just do everything well offensively. Now on the other side of that, right? We talked about as far as the pitchers go. I mean, Dane Dunning, a really, really good season. I don't think he's 1.6 ERA type of good season. His underlying numbers support that to be the case also. But I mean, still a good pitcher. And this is also an offense who's struggling. I mean, they can't hit anybody. So Dane Dunning, you might as well go out there and throw a complete game shutout. He might. But like that's the thing about this team. Like you have 3 solid starters. You have a really, really good offense. For them, the bullpen, kind of a bit of a challenge. Not a great bullpen. They have, to me, the Pirates, right? We talk about the intriguing guys. Like they have a really, really good 9th inning man. And then after that, it's kind of like, I don't know. So like, I think really honestly, like the Pirates have to do something they just haven't done in a long, long time. I mean, go back to April, how many times they scoring in the first inning, right? They're getting out, jumping out to a lead right away. Pirates have to do that. Like they have to find a way to get to these starters and get to that bullpen. Because I think that's the chance for them to succeed. If they can't, it's probably lights out. And if it's like a 1-run game, like this can't be like how the Diamondbacks series was. I mean, yesterday it kind of opened up, right? But like it can't even be a close game because that could be a 2-run shot in the 8th inning and boom, your lead's gone again.
Yeah. No, this is a team that I agree. Like you've got to figure out a way to get to the starting pitchers, and that's going to be tough because the starting pitchers are pretty good. But we've seen the Pirates do it, and we've seen them do it over the last week. Like they got to Eduardo Rodriguez, they got to Zach Gallen. So they're going to have to come out with performances like that to win some games this series. You hope that they can at least take 1 out of 3 here, and they are at home. If they could somehow win this series, then that really, like, I don't really know if I believe in momentum all that much in like regular season baseball, but if there's anything to kind of get you back on track, it would be a series win against this Texas Rangers team. That would feel good.
Yeah. Well, they don't have any momentum right now. So if you do believe it or don't, they don't have it. So it would be nice to get it. But you're right. I think like taking 1 out of 3 isn't going to be the worst thing in the world, especially with these matchups. Not that I'm trying to write the game off of, with Eovaldi pitching, but Eovaldi's looked excellent right now. But you're right. Like that's the weird thing. It's the Pirates. It's been a terrible offense all season. And Eduardo Rodriguez, they just light up. Zach Gallen, they really light up. So I don't know. Maybe they're just bored. Maybe the competition hasn't really been there. Just like, I'm too bored. We need good pitchers. Here comes Texas. Let's sweep them. Three wins now because they have good pitchers. I don't know, but you're right. Like I don't have full confidence that this lineup is going to do anything against the next 3 pitchers, but it's been those type of pitchers that lineup actually does wake up and do something with. So hey, that's baseball though.
Yeah, no, it should hopefully be a fun series. Hopefully we're at least looking at good baseball games. And my one concern here is that we deal with blowouts because this offense that we're going to be facing is certainly capable of putting together some blowout performances.
Was it
so let's
13
just
runs
those
against the Rockies yesterday?
Yeah, let's just avoid those. Let's avoid that, like 13-3 against the Rockies yesterday. So like, let's not have any of those games.
I'm with you.
That's
what I fear.
Yeah, those aren't the best post-game shows to do either. So
right. So starting off with Luis Ortiz, the way Luis Ortiz has looked, that could. Then you have Rich Hill throwing 88 miles an hour to this lineup. That could. Right. Like I'm very fearful that this could look embarrassing for the Pirates. But again, it's baseball, and we've seen what the Pirates can do. But anyways, I don't know. I guess that's where I'm at. I'm afraid. I'm fearing like they're going to score 45 runs these next 3 games.
You know what? Luis Ortiz is going to come out and shove tonight.
Boom. And then get sent down.
Yeah. Everybody's going to lose their mind. He's going to throw like the best game of his major league career and then get sent down immediately after.
Perfect. I'll take that. Because he's going to get sent down. And I can't argue it. Like, you can't argue at this point in time in that sense, basically. Well, I guess you could, but he's going to get sent down. Vince Velasquez, I think, like you said, unless there's something that Vince Velasquez says, I need another start because he's making his next start in PNC.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not PNC.
It'll be on the road.
Yeah.
But we get your point. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we get your point.
All right. Well, with that said, anything else you want to talk about?
I don't think so.
Well, then let's get out of here. It's been over an hour. We got to shorten this down.
Yeah, we talked way too long today.
All right. Well, then we will see you guys tonight with a post-game show talking about Luis Ortiz's best MLB start before he gets sent back down to the minors.
Let's do it.
Bye-bye.
See you guys.
Hey, you all. Thank you for watching. I know we try to provide the most entertaining content that we can, and we'd love to spread it to as many people as possible. So I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but if you could take the 5 seconds to like this video and subscribe to the page, it helps out so much more than you know. Thank you, and let's go Bucks.